Today's a day that a lot of you, I suspect, never thought would come. The day when Indy gets away from his microphone and fires up the camera to do one of his videos. Well, here we are. And not only is it just another video, but it's a very big departure for this channel because it is a book haul. I almost made it a full year on BookTube without doing a book haul, but this is kind of extenuating circumstances. Since the last few days of March, I have purchased more than 50 books. Now I understand how absurd that sounds, and I don't really have a justification for it. I don't intend to become one of those people who just keeps buying books and showing off books but never actually reading them. I am going to try and read as many of these as possible. It may take a couple of years, but I will get around to it. This all began and was triggered by the sale at the end of March at the Arts and Culture Centre. It was a fundraiser for the Canadian Federation of University Women in St. John's. The St. John's branch of this organization has been around for over 70 years. And advocates for women's rights and the status of women in education and a number of things. So I mean, it's a worthwhile cause. So I bought, between me, my wife, and my stepdaughter, we bought $60 worth of books. Now some of them are children's books for her. My wife had a bunch of Mary Higgins Clark's books and some Danielle Steele, as well as a few that you'll see in this haul. And I got the rest. The haul itself is fairly large. It's actually too large for one video, so I do have it chopped up a bit. So this is part one of what I expect to be 3 parts of the CFUW's book sale. So if you like this, if this goes well, if I don't shoot myself in the face trying to edit the video and the audio on this, then maybe there'll be more hauls coming in the future. We'll see how it goes. But without any further ado, let's get into it. Let it not be said that I am anything but a man of my word. I promise to deliver an actual video using a camera instead of a microphone, and here it is. Of course, I apologize for any preconceived expectations about the possibility of seeing my face, because I never once did say that that was going to happen. However, if it's any consolation, this is a fairly milestone kind of moment where I've been on BookTube for almost a year, and this is going to be the first haul that I've ever done. So of course, me being me, and living by the mantra of go big or go home, I didn't half-ass this one. There's about 30 books here that I'm going to mention, which, of course, as those that know me know I'm a fairly slow reader, there's a very good chance that a lot of these are going to end up on the wayside, but the intention is I'm going to get to as many of these as possible. But of course, when you go to a huge theater, the Arts and Culture Center, and you have 3 floors of nothing but tables and tables and tables of books, all priced either 50 cents, $1, or $2, you can't really not go a little crazy. This is a city where even the used bookstores, if I find a book that's $5 or $10, I would consider it a bargain. There's no go in with $5 and come out with 4 novels here. The used bookstores in St. John's, their idea of a discount is $5 for a $10 book, or like $3 or $4 off the retail price. I'm not getting anything here for less than $1 otherwise. And that is something that I envy for any of you listening that has that kind of bookstore nearby. But enough of the preamble. There already was an intro, so I'm not going to give another one here. Let's just get into the books. The first 8 titles is something that my wife picked out for herself, but you never know, I might actually get around to reading it. And that is Janet Ivanovich, the Stephanie Plum series. We have 1 for the money, 2 for the dough, 3 to get deadly, 4 to score, high 5, hot 6, 7 up, and hard 8. Clearly, my wife has a thing for Janet Ivanovich, or so it seems. Stephanie Plum is a former lingerie buyer for a department store who comes upon financial hard times and finds herself basically as a bail bondsman. They are presently up to book 22, and yes, the whole concept of the number of the book being in the title, it continues all the way through. I'm not sure if I'm going to get to these. I definitely don't know if I'm going to get to all 8 of these books, but I'm sure one of these days I will pick up 1 for the money and see how it goes. But being a man with commitment issues, I guess 22 novels is very, very difficult to wrap my head around, at least at this point in time. The next group of titles is going to be what I will consider author buys. For the most part, I don't know anything about the stories. And if I may go off on a tangent here, I don't like when people have these hauls and know nothing about the book that they're hauling. I'm saying that so that you can point out the hypocrisy in the fact that that's going to be the case in a lot of these books. There's a whole group of just books that were cover buys because they were $1 each. And these coming up, for the most part, with I think one exception, are author buys that I don't know anything about the story, but I bought because of who the author is. So first, I want to get to the controversial one for me, and that's this one. This is Orson Scott Card's Red Prophet. It's the second book, apparently, in the Tales of Alvin Maker. Orson Scott Card, for me, has always been a bit of an enigma, because although I boast that personal politics and the ideas and the ideals of an author or an artist in any way, shape, or form should not really be something that you factor in when it comes to judging the quality of the work. Unfortunately, that's something that Orson Scott Card seems to provoke within me. There's something about his homophobic and very bigoted opinions on a lot of things that just turned me off to the point where I wasn't able to read Ender's Game. I wasn't able to read anything from Card, even though he's one of the big, more recent names in science fiction. People who have never heard the name before usually will at least be familiar with Ender's Game, but for some reason, Card's politics has always kind of turned me off from him, and I had no interest in supporting him whatsoever. Again, I don't know what sets him apart from, say, H.P. Lovecraft, who kind of had similar views, other than the fact that Lovecraft was about 100 years ago, and it was a different world. So anyway, I see an Orson Scott Card title at the book sale, and yeah, it's literally, this was 50 cents, with 0% of the money going to Card, and instead of the 50 cents being put towards charity, promoting basically women in university. So it made sense to me at the time. Next up, we have another mystery. This is A Matter of Justice by Charles Todd. It was actually thanks to Jen from Remembered Reads that I finally realized and finally learned that Charles Todd technically is a duo, a mom and son writing duo that collab on these books. It's another mystery series. It follows their main protag. It's a bit of a period piece, so I guess it's a historical mystery, but like I said, it's a mystery. It's what you'd expect. If it's your genre, you probably already know who Charles Todd is. This is going to be a title that I kind of put on the back burner for now and just keep it in the tank for if that mystery madness thing comes up again that Jen did. I'll probably read something like this. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say about it at the moment. As much as I hate book hauls where you don't learn much about the story, I'm going to do it quite a bit. Next, and the second to last author buy, is one of my favorites. It's Dean Koontz. This is Breathless, and again, it's another one where I don't know much about the story, and because of the way that I do read, I like that the best. I really enjoy going to stories as blind as possible. With Dean Koontz especially, his suspenseful, like, semi-horror kind of style, it's always something that resonated with me with anything I've read. If you are not familiar with Koontz, I would highly recommend you pick up Odd Thomas. The first book was adapted to a movie, which was also fairly good, which I'm actually going to get around to on this channel at some point, talking about the difference between the book and the movie in that one. But this is another one where it's Dean Koontz. I've never heard of the title. I'm probably going to like it. That's just a given, because I don't think I've read a Dean Koontz that I didn't like yet. And it was $1, so this is what it is. And finally, we get to the author buy that I actually know about the story, and that is Ancestor by Scott Sigler. Scott Sigler is an author whom I respect immensely. He was one of the first wave of podcasters that came up with their fiction. He developed a massive audience by podcasting his novels for free, which at the time was unheard of, and now these days is not sustainable, but he really made it work. Ancestor is about this company that has developed this technology where they have been able to genetically engineer these creatures, these mammals, that are basically they reverse engineer like animal and mammal genomes and come up with this creature that kind of is the precursor to man, and something, science fiction-y, hand-wavium about it makes these creatures ideal for organ transplants. They are genetically engineered to have the same kind of biology as us, but their organs would never be rejected. An interesting premise in and of itself, but Sigler's a very dark and horror-ish kind of writer most of the time. Even if he's not writing horror, you can bet that someone's gonna die, and it's gonna be brutal in his books. So in Ancestor, clearly we have these creatures that are being bred simply for, organ transplants, and they're basically just walking donors. They are, hold on, how does the dust jacket put it? Okay, yeah, so our main character is PJ Colbing. It takes place in the Canadian Arctic. Yeah, so all this is well and good, and I'm going to read this right from the dust jacket. There's just one problem. These ancestors are not the docile herd animals that Colding's team envisioned. Instead, Colding's work has given birth to something big, something evil, something very, very hungry. So this is it. This is my genre. This is my comfort zone. In the past, I have been told that it's difficult for you guys to gauge what I actually enjoy reading, because pretty much everything I do in this channel is kind of contrary to that. So this is something that I will read. I will read this every time. This is the kind of stuff that I really enjoy. Visceral horror especially. But there's more books to get to, so let's keep going. And that concludes part 1 of the CFUW book sale book haul, I guess. If you like it, let me know. I think this is the part where I'm supposed to say if you've read any of these books, let me know what your thoughts are and all these things. But you guys know how this works. If you got something to say it in the comments. I love discussions. So I'm going to sign off now and start working on editing that second part of the video and see if I can't make this just a 2-parter instead of a 3-parter. See you guys in the next day or two. Cheers.